Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
So reading from Caitanya-charitamrita chapter 20 Antilila, text 21. Tinadapi sunichena Tarorapi sahisnuna Amanina manadena Kirtanya sadahari Tinadapi then downtrodden grass Suchinena being lower Taro api than a tree. Sahisnuna with more tolerance. Amanina without being puffed up by false pride. Manadena giving respect to all. Kirtanya to be chanted. Sada always. Hari the holy name of the Lord. Translation. One who thinks himself lower than the grass, which is more tolerant than a tree, and who does not expect personal honor, but is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord. Yeah. We make a conscious effort to be humble, but it's not so simple. Our potency to take pride is much greater than our potency to be humble. We find everything is a cause to be proud, you know. The color of my socks is a reason to be proud. I have so many reasons to be proud. And if I think of reasons to be humble, it just comes more difficult what to do. Because it is fundamental. We are in this material world at the very onset because of false pride. Ichadvesa samutena is a symptom of pride, that every living being in this world is overcome by the delusion of desire and hate. So, envy being the root cause of pride. Bhakti being the root cause of humility or devotional service. That is why the translation of bhakti as devotional service is so important, because it embodies humility in a service attitude. It is simply that. Artificially trying to act humble is really artificial. The mouth should be a little smaller. The hands should sort of be casually glued together. Tilt the head a little downwards. All these techniques are nice, but not enough. External. So humility is really about giving up one's personal agenda. It's not about who can crawl on the floor the most, but who can simply give up his own idea of what they want to be in their life. And to be what another Vaishnava wants us to be. And that's very hard. To be a disciple, very difficult, because the spiritual master, he wants something, and we want something else. Why that happens to be so, I don't know, but it's the case. There's something we want something else, and then you have to make that adjustment, and somehow or other surrender, somehow or other do it, but that is difficult. We struggle with this surrender because we are attached to our own concept of self, of what we want to be, of what we want to do. And that is what is diametrically opposed to humility. Therefore, it is simply through devotional service, by becoming completely absorbed in pleasing the spiritual master, that we develop real humility. And that is where it will show. That's where it will come out. More so than in speaking in a certain tone and with a certain expression on the face and so on. Because humility is not stereotype. Prabhupada was one who could raise his voice if required. Prabhupada was ready to accept worship and to be served by so many. And yet, he was seeing that as a duty. One of my favorite Prabhupada pictures is of Prabhupada in Gujarat, seated on this huge silver throne. And his face is his head is a little bit tilted, hands are like that. And his face is like sort of apologetic from, I know. The face says, I know, this is a monster of a throne. I know. How can any human being sit on this throne? I know. I shouldn't be sitting on such a throne. But what can I do? It's my duty. That's sort of what his face is telling me. So, for the sake of service to Krishna, humility can mean to take a position seated above everyone else, to stand while others are bowing down. You think that's easy? Stand there and all these people bow down. I mean, all day you try that, sort of like you're looking like, oh, here we go again. But one has to, humility means to accept whatever Krishna gave us, to take it, to just follow Krishna's culture, to follow Krishna's way, to do it as he prescribes it in scripture. That is real humility. And to not fight with whatever Krishna gave us internally. So many things to fight for. What can we say? Do we have to agree with everything? It's not so easy. To accept Krishna consciousness is a matter of first accepting the gross, the general principles of Krishna consciousness. And then there are so many other principles, so many finer principles also to be followed. So gradually it increases and increases. One's responsibility increases. Little by little, our behavior has to change. Humility means that we're willing to change. Pride means we just hold on to who we are. Anyway, these are some reflections on humility. And we know that this is our foundation, that Haridas Thakur embodies that, right? And that Kirtanya Sadahari. So therefore, Haridas Thakur must be very humble because he's always chanting. Now, so generally we look at Haridas Thakur as the embodiment of chanting the holy name. But then today we're going to look at him as the most humble person. Well, some examples are there. At one point he was living in a cave with a snake. Why with a snake? Because he didn't want to inconvenience that snake by asking the snake to sort of get out, or, take some stones and just snake, and chase it out. No, he just lived with it. Some of the visitors that came thought there was a smell, a sort of like a snaky smell, whatever that is. I'm not sure what. I try to keep a distance and don't usually smell snakes, so I'm not quite sure what snakes smell like. But people could smell. Something is going on here in this cave. There is one. A poisonous smell. At one point, the people felt that they didn't want to visit Haridas any longer. And then Haridas said, okay, I can move from here. Then, just then, the super soul arranged that the snake left, and the snake just on its own suddenly left the cave. So we're seeing that Haridas Thakur is not concerned with his own well-being, with his own comfort. We see that Haridas is not afraid because he's not attached. Whatever Krishna may bring, death or life, as Krishna desires. Not so much from, like I gotta make sure I stay healthy. I mean, I gotta take my vitamin pills and, my Ayurvedic medicine so that like I can live longer, do a little jogging, some yoga, something, whatever. Then, take my therapy, or go to my support group or something so that I can fully express myself. Because I don't want to miss out the opportunity. Imagine life is very short, and what if I could not fully express myself? I don't imagine. Then I wouldn't have really lived, would I? All these things are there in our minds. Yeah. Where was I? I was in Vrindavan, nicely serving in Vrindavan. And I had joined in Vrindavan, and that was the place where I wanted to be. Then they called me over, the GBC called me over and said, "You're going," he didn't say, "Do you want to?" He said, "You're going to Detroit to be the treasurer. And I go, Detroit? You know, treasurer? Sounds like two things I didn't want to do, right? Definitely didn't want to go to Detroit. Definitely didn't want to be a treasurer. Oh, they sitting with bookkeeping. Me? I mean, come on. You can see what I'm like. I'm not your dry kind of person. Like, the paper clip should be on the right side of the desk, and the rubber, the eraser, should be on the left side of the desk, and the pencil at the top in between. I mean, that's not me, that's for sure, right? I mean, after 3 days, I'm going to shoot the paperclip all through the room. Gonna find, in school, I would put the rubber on the heaters, right? That was always good. That was quite successful. Good smell. So, like this, oh gosh. I always got in trouble in school for anything. What are you eating? Paper. Paper? So well, I wasn't eating it, I was chewing it so that I could shoot it through my balls through my big pen and blow it onto the blackboard while the teacher was writing. Ah, they were good things. I'm not a bookkeeper. Definitely not. I can't imagine anything more boring than bookkeeping. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, you do a calculation, and then in the end, you are, 10 rupees out, you know what I mean? And then you're supposed to do all the calculations again. I take 10 rupees from my pocket and put it in, you know. I mean, happy. You know, I happily give 10 rupees for that, you know, as long as I don't have to calculate it again. What to do? I'm good at one type of accounting. This is called creative accounting. I'm very good at that. If it doesn't balance, no matter, bring it to me, I'll fix it for you. It will always balance, no problem. I'm good at that. Anyway, so Detroit. I heard about Detroit, you know, industrial city. Yeah, thanks. I heard about Detroit. Fisherman's palace, you know, from this fisher, this big palace, horrible place. It's a museum, it's dead, you know. I thought, do I have to go there to some sort of museum? Oh. Anyway, by the afternoon, I had to go to Australia. I don't know if that was much better, but that's what it became. They sent me to Australia, and that's how it was. In the ISKCON of the 70s and the early 80s, it could happen to you that someone would say, you got swapped. Swapped? Yeah, you got swapped. They would swap devotees, and they just swap you. You just get swapped, and then you had to go to another place. You got swapped. It was very common. And in fact, there were rates, you know, it's sort of slave trade, but there were, you know, if you really think about it, but there were rates, you know, like, for example, 2 ordinary devotees for 1 Sankirtan devotee. You had a big book distributor. If you had a really big book distributor, you get 3 devotees for him, you know. You just swap him for 3 devotees. Yeah, serious. I'm not joking, believe it or not. It was really the practice in the Hare Krishna movement. You can ask, you know. That was the way it was. And yeah, you got swapped and then you did it. You know, it's just, that was it. You had to go, there was no question. You got swapped. Anyway, I guess I got swapped and I went to Australia. And there was only one way out, to bloop. If you got swapped, you could bloop for a little while and then join again in the temple where you wanted to be. There were tricks, you know, there always were tricks. But that was a sign of lack of humility, obviously. Supposed to just humbly accept, right? Because ultimately we're not the controllers of our life, and just be the servant of the Vaishnavas. And if they say you got swapped, then surrender to it. That's how it was. Yeah. Anyway, so all these external things, I don't know how much it helped. So I was in Australia. They sent me to Australia. And then the first temple they sent me to is Melbourne. And in Melbourne, they have a roster in the temple. And everything is rostered on that temple. In everything. Right? The time you eat, the time you sleep, the time you take bath, it's all on the roster. From this time to that time, baths. Right? From that time to that time, this service, that service. This is this big roster. So they put my name all over that roster. And I got my personal roster. So that also I didn't like too much, to tell you the truth. I couldn't handle that. So then one day they offered me to go to a farm instead. And I said desperately, yes, anything but a roster. So then they sent me to this farm, and this farm was, it was far away. It was remote, in a remote area of Australia, and that's pretty remote. Australia is already remote. And then in a remote area from Australia, there was a village with 100 houses, and then there was a dirt road of 80 kilometers, dirt, and there was the farm. And it was in the middle of nowhere. So on the second day, they told me, okay, we're going to the paddock. I go, paddock? All right, whatever that is. It was the field. Right? And then someone gave me a shovel. Right? Gave me a shovel and said, move your hooves. Now, I had just come from Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, you have lotus feet, So I'd lived many years in Vrindavan with my lotus feet, right? And suddenly, I had hoofs. So you cannot imagine. It was just too much, really. I mean, that sort of really blew my mind. And I looked at my feet and I go, do I have hooves? I guess that helped me to overcome a little bit of pride, from lotus feet to hooves. And I had to shovel, had to dig a trench. So I guess, I don't know if all these things actually made me humble. I don't know. I really don't know. Because I can't really look at myself as humble now. It only looked like I buried my pride a little deeper. I just buried it deeper, and on the surface it didn't show anymore, and I just took a shovel. Although I'm a bit of a spoiled brat, because my father happened to be a company director. And in our house, if you wanted to hang a painting, I knew how to hang a painting. Take the phone and call the guy to hang the painting. That's how I grew up, what can I say? I never used a drill until I joined the Hare Krishna movement. Yeah? It's like, I had no idea. Anyway, I was proud when I made my first hole, like, wow, I can do it. Amazing. Yeah, so what is humility? What is humility? I don't know, to be honest. All I can say is that Krishna, through life, right? Through life is making us more humble. Life itself is designed in that way. Life is designed... I got a cold. Let's see if I can sing today. Life itself is designed to make us humble. And more than by reading books or more than by meditation and more than by reciting Trinadapi Sunichena Dorodapi Sahisnuna Amalina Madani Kirtaniya Sadari. More than by Kirtanya Sadahari. I know someone who has a password, Kirtanya Sadahari. I won't mention any name. Yes. But even when your password is Caitanya Sadahari, it's not so easy. Not so easy to always chant. I chanted 64 rounds. It was here in Mayapur. And I chanted and chanted and chanted, and I saw people everywhere. And this is the big problem. When you're chanting 64 rounds, the problem is people. Because everyone wants to talk to you. And then you try to chant. And so as soon as you see someone, oh, oops, I know him. Go the other way. Oh, there's another one. Turn around. All the time trying to avoid people. Otherwise, how can you chant your 64 rounds? You'll never do them. Anyway, I did my 64 rounds. And then I walked through the long building, and there was a newspaper. And my hand went for the newspaper. And I go, what's that, Just chanted 64 rounds, and now I want to read a newspaper. And I looked at it, why? And the reason was, it was stress to chant these 64 rounds. I stressed. I pushed myself to chant 64 rounds, and then after I wanted to relax, read a newspaper. Yeah. So, to chant with love, phew, that's a whole different story. Anyhow, so many experiences, so many things done. I've chanted 64 rounds for some time. The devotee who encouraged me to chant 64 rounds had a long string of counting beats, 64 counting beats he had. But why did he have 64 counting beats? Don't we have 16 on one side and 4 on the other side? So for our 64 rounds. So is 64 counting beats maybe sort of advertising from look how long my counting beats are. Look. Is there who are we chanting for? That is a big question. Who are we chanting for? When we do Kirtan, who are we chanting for? When we chant Japa, who are we chanting for? That is a big question. Anyhow, so we did all kinds of service. I was here in Mayapur, coming back from Australia after having been on that farm. I came to India. And Bhavananda had sent me to Mayapur, and I was in Mayapur. And then it became, I just came at the end of 85. So the next big thing was the 500th anniversary of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which was a big event. And here in Mayapur, you can understand that was big, that was a big celebration. And Pancharatna Prabhu was in charge of making a plan, and he was making a huge plan. There was a military flyby in the plan, and there was so many things, it didn't happen, but it was all on paper, it was a huge plan. And then his daughter became ill, and he had to leave. He went to America. She had leukemia. So he went for treatment. So then I inherited it. Like I took over from him. And then for one thing I had to do was build an expo for Jayapataka Maharaj. The first time I'd ever done anything like that, and I was doing it pretty much by myself, and Maharaj was guiding me because he was paying for it. So he said, if you go to that housing project behind the bush, you'll find some steel. You go there. And if you go there and there are some bags of cement. He knew everything, all the little bits left over from all the construction materials in Mayapur. And he told me to pick up all these things to save money. He called me, he kept me up, like I was working for him, but he didn't want to give me money. Jayapataka Maharaj, I'm sorry to say this, it's not blasphemy, but he can be quite a miser. He was so tight with money, it was just too much. I came there and to do his work, and I was supposed to get a check, right? So I got into his office, used to be 106, and he was there in the office. And I went there, and at 7 o'clock I came, and he says, so, you want a check? I said, yes. I said, why? I said, well, you want me to build this thing, right? I said, like, no, but why do you need so much money? So it gets really difficult, arguing about the money. And each time, someone else would come into the office, and he would give full attention to that person and not to me, to ignore me, completely ignore me. Some villager walked in, and he would just start, and he just didn't look at me. He didn't want to know me now, suddenly. Right? And then by 11 o'clock, Maharaj pulled out the checkbook. I convinced him, he pulled his checkbook out of the drawer, but he didn't write the check. Yeah? By 11:30, he had written the check, but he didn't sign it. By 11:45, he signed it, right? By 10:12, he gave it to me, and he says, oh, I didn't stamp it. I have to put a stamp on it. I said, no problem, Maharaj, I have my own stamp. It's like, I was going to make a stamp, forget it. I'm not giving back this check for nothing. I had it, right? So I had the check. And then he says, do you want some prasad? And he took me to his, to the roof room where he stayed. And they served this huge feast, so many preparations and this, that. And in the middle of the night, we're eating this whole thing. And I go, what the heck, after all this. After 5 hours to get a check, I was ready to eat anything. And I ate all that. And then I went to bed. And then it was late, and with a full feast. So at 5:30, bang, 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 bang on my door. And it was his servant. I said, he wants to see you right now. I go, huh? Anyway, I went. And then so I really took a quick shower, 5 minutes shower, boom, dhoti on, and jumped on the bike. And there I was, in his room. And he was still sitting on the bed, but he was doing a million things. But he didn't take his shower yet. He was just giving instructions left and right. And then he says to me, okay, come. So he has a shower on his roof, like with 2 little saloon doors, So he's in the shower, Hare Krishna, whatever. and then and he's talking to me, right? Over the saloon doors. He's talking to me about, And then when you go there, you'll find some cement, and don't forget there's wood. Actually there's a lot of wood, and you can take that. And there's steel there, you take that, and you use all these things. So he sent me everywhere for all these materials. And then he came out, and he got dressed, and just then Harikesh came in and said, "We have to go. Jayapataka, come on, we have to go." But he was talking to me about cement and this and that. And then Harikesh started walking in the room, and he started chanting, "Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's." But we were still talking. So then finally Harikesh attacked me with a roll pillow and started to smash me with the roll pillow. And then Jayapataka Maharaj, and Harikesh said, "Get out of here." Then Jayapataka Maharaj said, "Go downstairs to room number so-and-so, my disciple's room." So I went there, and then suddenly Maharaj came running, and he came running into the room, and he rolled under the bed, and he was hiding. And he was talking more. Cement and steel and wood. And Harikesh said, "Jayapataka, where are you? I know you're somewhere. Where are you?" Anyway, that's a little bit of Mayapur history, and and a little bit of my service here in Sri Dham Mayapur. It was intense. And then, so all this is going on, and I hardly had time to chant my rounds. It was getting tough. And then one day, Bhavananda stands behind me and puts a heavy hand on my shoulder. When people put a heavy hand on your shoulder, did you ever have a heavy hand on your shoulder? Okay. So I'm looking at that hand from, what does this mean, with some fear in my heart. And then he says, "You are in charge." No, he says, "Do you like construction?" And I saw it coming. I said, "No, not particular, not really." And he says, "Good. You're in charge of all construction in Mayapur." Oh, that was intense. And he smiled and walked away. And I stood there. And I started to think about, what does it mean? It meant the samadhi. It meant the conch building. It meant the Radha Madhava temple, which was half finished. It meant to build the Nrsingadev temple. It meant to build the courtyard in front. It meant to carry on building the housing project next to the samadhi. It meant to build the police station, which is next to the gate. It meant so many things. What to do. What to do. And the guest house had to be ready for the conch building had to be ready for the 1986 opening, right? For the festival. I managed to get it almost ready and put in the tiles on the floor. And as the tiles were in, 2 hours later the beds were going on top. So if the tiles in the building are a little bit like like that, then you know why. What can I say? Anyway, so this is the process. These are examples of bhakti, of what is supposed to make you humble. This is supposed to do it. Devotional service. I don't know exactly how it all, if that's what it did. But it brought me those things and so many others, right? So many other things brought me to a point of thinking about humility. I can't say I'm humble, but like you have Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who writes in his old age, like these kind of reflective songs, like I've wasted my life, I have not surrendered, I haven't really, my wicked mind, and he goes into this whole catharsis of self-reflection. And I guess I didn't quite get there, but I'm getting there. I'm getting old, that's for sure. Actually today, I didn't say I'm getting old, I said I am old. That's where it's at. Next birthday is 67. That's old. And if you think it's not, that's because you don't know. You just don't know. It's old. It's old. God, I'm almost there, 70. Okay, what am I going to do on my 70th birthday? Got to do something big, right? Maybe take a boat across the Atlantic Ocean or something. What do you do when you're 70? You got to make a splash, isn't it? And it's not easy. It's not easy. Because the energy is waning. It's like even the kirtans, of course I do crazy kirtans and everybody knows it. And what can I say? It's all over YouTube and and it's like the cat is out of the bag. Everyone knows that. Give him a harmonium and he goes nuts. What can I do about it? But it gets more difficult. Because it gets more difficult to recover now from the fatigue. So, yeah. Gradually, I'm bending over. My shoulders begin to hang. I notice it these days. I try to sort of pull them back. Even think of getting some device to keep it straight, what to do. But all signs of old age, the spine is caving in. Oh my God. And everything else, little by little. And yes, how many times did I tell the story? Oh, Grandma, what's wrong with you? Huh? Why are you walking with your nose on the ground? Huh? Grandma, what's wrong with you? Huh? Can't you see, you foolish boys, that I've lost the pearl of my youth? Yeah, so old age makes us bow down. When you were strong, who can do anything? You're strong. You get energy. Right? When I left home at 17 to do what I wanted, I had this record from a band named The Animals, and the band and one of the big songs on that album was "It's my life and I do what I want, do what I want." I like that song. So I used to play that song, and I did what I wanted. I told my father, "Sorry, I'm not finishing my school. I'm going. I'm leaving." And then he said, "I won't give you a cent. I won't give you a cent." And I said, "That's okay. That's okay. I can make my own." And I could because I had so much energy. But now, who's going to take care of me at my old age? Well, it's not that bad yet, but I can. I can imagine that such things can happen. It can happen. When was that? Anyway, I think 2 years ago. First, a few years ago, I was really ill. Then 2 years ago, I got this pneumonia. I was in Radhadesh for the Kirtan mellow, for the Radhadesh mellows, and it was Nityananda's appearance day, and they wanted us to do the Abhishek. So all the Swamis took their tops off, and I did it too. Big mistake. I should have kept my jacket on, I tell you. But I wanted to keep Niranjan Maharaj. You know, I mean, he has some natural insulation. and so does Sachidananda Swami, you know, the Katha, you know. Yeah, I don't have any Katha in my system. It's all Vata Pitta, you know, forget the Katha. So nothing, just skin and then bone, right? No fat in between. It's just skin and next is the bone. So some devotee got inspired to get some fresh air and opened the window right behind us with -10 temperature blowing on my back. I felt it. And I knew, something's gonna happen. And it sure did. I got this pneumonia and on my back, and I got a whole thing in my back. All the muscles cramped up in my back, and I got a tremendous pneumonia, and I was knocked out, and I couldn't get off the bed. And I had to be lifted off the bed by devotees. There was this, 4 devotees full-time taking care of me, lifting me up, putting me under the shower on one of those stools, and giving me a bath. Ooh. Me. Superman. You know, if you didn't know it yet, Super Swami is in town. Come on. And then, God, sitting there on this stool like an old man of 80, you know what I mean? Then my star brahmachari disciple, he had to do menial service. And he wasn't used to it. So he's supposed to put warm oil on my back. It's like, this oil is cold. He goes back to the kitchen, comes back. I go, it's still cold. He goes back in my humility. And then the 3rd time he puts it, he's about to put it on my back, puts his fingers in and burns his fingers. All arrangements to develop humility. For him, for me, I was sitting there reduced by disease, right? And suddenly depending on people, even to go to the bathroom. I couldn't do it alone. I needed someone to help me to go to the bathroom. It's getting pretty bad. Really, that's humiliating. It's not just, you don't get humble, it's humiliating. They dropped me off. At least I was still that fit that I could lock the door and do the rest myself. Imagine when it comes, you can't even do that. So, life itself is designed to make us humble. Oh yes. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is... Well, it used to be Cinderella, but not anymore. Cinderella? Cinderella? Was she the most beautiful girl of all? Cinderella? It's all skin and bone. Huh? Yeah. Flappy everywhere. Yeah. So, in this way, this is the entire purpose of this material world. To little by little make us humble. And we thought that we were here to enjoy, didn't we? Hey, didn't we? Yes, we did. But I tell you, this material world is designed to make us humble. So yeah, after having said all these things, I guess I'm gonna get down from my raised seat and sit on the ground. It is more befitting if you try to be humble. And then take shelter of the holy name for a while. Let's see if in the midst of all the mucus I can croak nicely. I'm not sure. If it doesn't work well, then I stop quickly and turn it over